Hi and welcome to this week's life lesson video. This week we're dealing with the emotion of disappointment and offering you practical solutions for mindset and motivation. So David, we've had a great question from one of our YouTube viewers saying, I feel a constant sense of disappointment with myself, my relationships and my life. It's like a black cloud hanging over me. What can I do about it? Welcome to our Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons series. In each episode, we answer your questions, reveal the powerful life lesson, and offer you lots of practical tips and advice to help you live in balance, harmony, and flow. Okay, David, so let's begin with disappointment. How in the Wu Wei Wisdom model, how do you see disappointment?
It's a good subject to talk about because we constantly being asked in our Facebook community, what's the golden thread? How do you do the golden thread? Can you do the golden thread for yourself? And this question kind of allows us to explore the golden thread and to show you as how you do it. So the first thing, disappointment. Now, are you describing a feeling, an emotion, or are you describing a state of mind? And this is why it's so important to start at that top layer. I feel disappointed. See, and this is why I'm always saying to you, what's that word I feel? I say ban the F word. Ban the F word. When you're doing this work, ban the F word. Replace it with I think, I believe, I choose. So I think I'm disappointed. I believe I'm disappointed. I choose to be disappointed. And at the golden thread, that separates the feeling from the belief or the thought that created it. And that's one of the most important things that I can pass over to you, because if you're not careful with your words, remember I say almost on every video, the words you use are the bricks that build the house that you live in. So it's very easy to become, I feel disappointed, or I feel anxious, to I am anxious, I am disappointed, and you start describing yourself. So that's the first thing I would say about this.
For me, there's disappointment is a feeling. So I feel deflated. It feels negative. It feels not good. And as this person described, he said, it's like a black cloud hanging over me. It's a negative thing. So most people, I expect, would have it as a feeling. So what is creating that feeling?
Exactly. So that's why on the golden thread, why don't you call it a red light?
Yeah.
And it's much better then because it takes all of that negative connotation away from the saying. And you could say, I'm creating a red light.
So I'm creating that. But surely, if someone's let me down, or if external situations haven't gone the way I wanted them to go, or expected them to go, or hoped them to go, is that me creating that?
That's a great example. I hope you noticed what Alex did then. I call it the dump.
It's like everybody's kind of letting me down, or things just aren't going the way I'm hoping they're going to go. I'm working really hard. But it's other circumstances, other people.
So let's slow you down. Take a breath now and drop your shoulders. I create a red light. I create red light feelings. Okay, why are you creating red light feelings? Now, as Alex said, because
someone has let me down.
Okay, so how can someone let you down? What is it that they've done to let you down? So now we're on the golden thread. Can you see we've moved away from the feelings now, and now we're exploring what you think and what you believe. Well, I guess you would say they promised to do something and they haven't done it.
Or I had an expectation that that person was going to do something, and I thought it was a reasonable expectation, and it hasn't happened, and it keeps on not happening.
Okay. So then I would want to go, so what's an expectation? So shall we do that? So what's an expectation, Alex?
An expectation is I guess it's a thought or a belief that this will happen, this has been decided and this is going to happen.
And there's a problem, you see, and that's exactly what an expectation is, believing that something is going to happen. Now, most times things do happen. And when I speak to my clients, they'll say, well, you mean I can't expect nothing? Well, well, of
I've
course.
got to expect, it's like, what do you just not, do you not expect anyone to do anything for you or anyone to meet their part of the bargain or their part of the relationship? Or if I work hard, should I not have the expectation that I'm going to get results?
Well, not always. And there's the problem. What Alex has just said, that is the reality. You can work as hard as you want, but sometimes you don't get the rewards that you believe that you should get. And so you have to be careful with the word expectation. We're back to words again, you see, and be very mindful. A couple of my clients often say to me, oh, let me think about the words because I know you're going to be jumping all over me. And I say, no, that's a good thing. Think about the word you're going to use. What is an expectation for you? Is it an absolute surety that that's going to happen? How many times have you expected something to happen in your life that you're in control of, but you've changed your mind, you've gone down another path, you've moved in another way? Do you think other people should be doing the same things as well? So expectation is not certainty. Let me repeat that. Expectation is not certainty. We do not live in a universe, we do not live in a reality where you can look in the future and be absolutely sure, certain of what's going to happen. It doesn't matter how many assurances you give yourself or other people give you. You cannot have that assurity, that certainty. So make sure that having an expectation, expecting something is I am sure that's going to happen. I mean, it sounds like we're playing around with words, but actually they're very important because they put you down onto a different golden thread. So are your expectations what you expect or what you want to happen and think should happen and need to happen? And it would only be fair or just if they did happen. And this is where it goes confusing. Can I give you another word that I use? It's a Chinese word, yi, Y-I. And that gets translated into the English of intention. So rather than having an expectation, does it sound a little bit better for you to have an intention? This is what I would like to happen. This is what I'm working towards. This is what my intention is going, my direction of travel. Because I believe the word intention gives you that little bit of wriggle room.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It just gives you that little bit of flexibility that we're back. Here we go. We're back to water. We're back to that stream, aren't we? It just gives you that little bit, like in a negotiation. Any negotiation, if you're buying a house or negotiating a contract, you've got to have that little bit of wriggle room. You can't be so rigid. Now, the mind, the human-centered mind, loves this rigidity.
Yeah, I mean, so really what we're talking about here is our mindset.
Yes.
Our mindset, our beliefs control or affect whether we experience disappointment or not. I suppose the reality is that things don't always go the way we would like them to or the way we would expect them to.
I would say very rarely.
Fact. So if we hold a rigid expectation without the wriggle room, then the outcome of having that rigid mindset, that rigid outcome, desire for a set outcome it's almost like butt up against reality, which is not rigid, which is flowing, which is transforming, which offers you the unexpected. And that is when you get the red light feeling of disappointment. If we interface with reality, the transforming, flowing, unexpected reality, with a mindset of intention, where we have the wriggle room, where we have the flexibility, then that allows us to continue to experience green light feelings, positive feelings of unexpected excitement, unexpected seeing things as opportunities rather than problems or negative outcomes. It allows us to interface with reality in a much more harmonious woo way.
No, exactly. And just as you were saying it, something come into my mind once in my life, when I had a strong expectation and looking back, trying to meet that expectation, I missed a lot of opportunities, a better way that developed as the project developed because I was so focused on the outcome. I missed all of these opportunities that present themselves because you're almost like focused, like a vision, like with your blinkers on. That's the word I was looking for. You have your blinkers on. And this is the problem with the word expectation. So this can be what you expect from other people. So this could be members of your family, your children. You have expectations of what they should be doing at school or what they should be doing in their career or what kind of partners they should be choosing. And when you have that blinkered effect, I think that's a good word for expectation, that blinkered effect. You miss all of the opportunities that are circling around because, as you know, I believe in the law of attraction. So there's always plenty of other opportunities available. As one door closes, hundreds of other doors open up. And so expectations restrict you to a single path, rather than looking at all of the opportunities.
But David, if we're talking about relationships, surely I have to have some level of expectation, say that my partner or my best friend is going to treat me in a certain way. I can't just accept and be flexible and accept if they keep letting me down or keep treating me badly. Is that what you're saying?
No, so this is why this is very interesting. You see, now we've moved from expectation into another area. We talked about this a few sessions ago about running a relationship.
Yeah.
So if your partner keeps letting you down, you've got a partner that keeps letting you down. He or she is showing you his nature of who and she is. Then you have to address that on a relationship basis. That's not about your expectation. That's
we're not saying be a doormat.
No, of course.
That's
the last thing I would
say. So rather than, I guess what you're saying is if someone doesn't fulfill their promises
you ask them why
or treats you disrespectfully, we're saying don't just create a red light feeling of disappointment or sadness or anger. We're saying take that information, don't ignore it, and then deal with it. Speak to them.
Absolutely.
Let it be a good indicator of who that other person is.
And that's the riddle room that we're talking about. Because if you have that expectation that they should act in a certain way, and then they don't act in that way, then you start to think yourself as the victim. As you're being treated unjustly, I'm asking you to be more proactive and ask them why the hell they're acting in that way. What is it they're doing and why are they doing it? Why do they find it difficulty to meet the things that they promised to do, to act in the way that they promised to act? So I definitely not be a doormat, be the opposite, be more proactive, but not in this injustice, in this how dare you let me down.
I'm so disappointed in you.
I'm outraged, because the truth is we all do things and we don't get it right. We're not, how many times do you hear me say this? We're not perfect.
And life isn't perfect. I can put a link to a video we've done on perfection, which you'd be very interested to watch.
And this is the problem with expectation again. You see, it kind of relates to there's a perfect outcome. Oh, well, when my child does this, or when my partner does this, or he promised to do this, she promised to do this, and she hasn't done it. And then you create this feeling, oh, I'm so disappointed. No, the partner or something hasn't happened, then go proactively and try and find the solution. The problem solve. Don't be the victim of the problem. The problems are the life lessons. That's what you've got to try and solve.
I think, the inner child comes into play with this quite a lot because, whether it's just, the inner child's expecting certain things to happen, and when things don't happen, it has disappointment, but it's like, it's not fair. It's just not fair. This keeps happening. I keep getting disappointed. I'm working so hard. I'm trying so hard with my relationship, and bad things keep happening. I keep getting let down. How do we teach the inner child about this expectation, disappointment thing?
That's what we're doing now. And I'm going to speak up for the inner child, because it's not their fault, because that's what they're told. When they're a baby, they told, Mummy and Daddy loves you, we're going to do everything for you. And then when that doesn't work in the way that they thought it should work, that's when the inner child has its first strop or temper tantrum, or I love squealing piglets.
Yeah, and it just goes, it's not fair. It's not fair. Everything, this keeps happening to me all the time.
And then they make it worse and worse, and they heighten it. And this is what these life lessons are about, really, is finding a solution to when things in your life don't go right. Don't look at them as a big disappointment that something's exploded, the bomb's just exploded, and you can't do anything about it. This is the opportunity for you to learn. And what we're talking about here is just a slight change in perception or focus. Don't be so dogmatic. Don't be so rigid. Don't set those rules down. Or have an intention of where you want to go to, of how your life to be, of how your relationships to be, of how your career to be, of how you want to be. But understand, like that river, it's got twists and turns. And in those twists and turns, there also are opportunities. The universe, people are not out to get you. It's not you versus the rest of the world. Go with the flow. Don't go against the flow. You know, so many of my clients, I use this analogy. It's like you're in a canoe going down the river. And yes, you're right. In this river, there are rocks and waterfalls. There may be a few crocodiles. But don't turn the canoe around and paddle like crazy against the flow. Use the paddle as a rudder and gently stream down. Look ahead. Have an intention of where you want to go in your career, in your life, in making money, in moving houses. This applies to everything, in rearing your children, because every child is individual. Honor their individuality. Don't try and stamp your individuality onto them. Let them grow and then guide them gently.
Yeah, I mean, that comes back to this rigidity versus flexibility. I think with the inner child stuff, I wonder whether really the inner child views things very black and white, and we've talked about this before.
Extreme.
And we've done lots of videos on inner child reparenting, so I'll put a link up there if you want to know more about that process. But the inner child sees things in black and white, so it's like, if I do this, or if someone says this, then this is going to happen. Exactly. A plus B equals C.
Always.
Yeah, always.
And it doesn't.
So I guess in parenting the inner child, doing the inner child work, we have to sit down with the inner child, talk quietly to ourselves and say, hold on a minute, it's not going to be a set outcome. No matter how much we think this is going to happen in a certain way, that is not the way of the universe. So you have to speak to yourself, speak to your inner child and explain there has to be wriggle room here on outcomes. There has to be flexibility. It's not going to be one outcome. It may be one of a dozen outcomes, but all of those bring something positive, even though they may not feel it at the time.
Exactly how you wanted. I think that question also said, because you know this about expectations, we're the worst on expectations on ourselves.
Yeah.
We build up these expectations of ourselves.
Our own performance.
The way we should look. The way we should act.
What we should achieve.
What we should have done. How we should have dealt with it better. Yeah. We're so critical. We're so judgmental. We compare ourselves all of the time about the way things should have been.
And just to say, our next week's video is on comparing.
Oh, well, that's
comparing ourselves, so that will be a nice lead on.
Yeah. So this is very important, because when, as Alex said, we've talked many times about the inner child sees black, white, right, wrong, yes, no, I want to know, I want certainty. And this is when it clashes against reality, because the outside world isn't certain. And in fact, this is where the Taoist teaching comes into it. One of the most famous books in Taoism is called the I Ching, the Book of Change. A better transformation is the Book of Transformation. Everything is transforming. As you listening to this and your life is transforming, the way you think, your perceptions. And can I just give you this one really vital teaching? Your beliefs, the things that drive your life, your computer program, the filter that everything goes through is not set in stone. You can change it. You can tweak it. You can alter it. You can move it around. It's in your control. Do not believe that something that you've gathered up through your childhood cannot be moved because your parents said something to you that's engraved on your heart or on your mind and therefore can't be changed. You can change your belief system. And my clients hate when I do this, but I'm going to do it to you. You can change your belief system now because it's yours. Own it. Take responsibility, self-responsibility. Make sure what you believe, you actually believe. It's your belief and you can defend it. So if you believe that the universe has this rigidity, should work out the way that you want it to work out, then write and tell me, because I don't see a universe like that. And people will do one thing and do something, say one thing and do something else, because you've done that in your life, haven't you? You've said one thing and done something else, because we all have. We do not live on that rigid set of railway lines.
Yeah. So obviously this idea of intention, broadening out,
just a little bit more riddle room.
The possibilities
I
of
love
what
riddle room. I think that was a good idea.
The possibilities of what may happen is a powerful kind of mindset teaching. Also, we have to acknowledge that, negative outcomes do happen, like very negative outcomes do happen. So it's not a case of, I'm just going to reframe this and then I'm going to see it all as positive. Actually, no, sometimes we have to deal with very negative outcomes. Now, rather than be disappointed, we can broaden out the scope and so we may not be so shocked that a negative outcome has happened. But let's say it happened. Is there then a kind of a teaching about taking the learning from the negative outcome, so making the best of the negative outcome?
Yeah, I think there's a big teaching, because let me ask you this one. How many times in your life did you believe that this was you got made redundant, the marriage split up, some injury?
And it feels like the world's coming to an end.
At the time, doesn't it? You know, especially the older ones listening to this. How many times in your life have you thought, oh my God, this is so bad. I'll never get over this. And then how many times you look back and you say, you know what? That took me on a different route. That showed me a different path. So Alex is absolutely right. I'm not sitting here saying, everything is wonderful. Everything's going to work out right. Think positive about everything. But I would say, think realistically about everything. Give yourself that little room. So if it is something really, really bad, and there are really, really bad things in life, I absolutely accept that. But it passes through that. And if you find yourself that riddle room and look on it as a lesson, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? What can I take from this? If I just say, how did I get here? What decisions did I make that brought me here? What can I learn from those decisions so it doesn't repeat?
I think if we allow the red light feelings of disappointment, deflation, hopelessness, sadness, all the things that were associated with these strong expectations of set outcomes, if we allow those to kind of spiral out of control and overwhelm us, that uses up all our energy, all our creative thinking power, all our ability to analyze the situation in the way that you've talked about. And we miss the opportunity to take those positive learning and lessons from the negative outcome or the outcome.
You're right, and you use a very powerful word there, overwhelmed. I hear this every day in my practice. I feel overwhelmed. It's overwhelming. And when you say those words, you are creating a victim mode, that you are just being washed along with the emotions that you are creating.
Yeah.
Remember, you are the creator of your emotions. You are not the victim. So when you try and protect yourself from those emotions, like the emotions are some kind of a monster outside waiting to eat you and get you and overwhelm you, what you're actually doing is penning the monster inside the wall of protection, because you create those emotions. So absolutely, bad things do happen. I'm very sorry. They do happen. They happen to every human being. That's reality. It's how you get through. We often say here, get back on the bike, start pedaling even harder. Because that really is the end of the day, the only solution you've got. Yes, you can go and lock yourself in a darkened room. You can put the duvet over your head.
Have a squealing piglet.
Have a squealing piglet. Feel sorry for yourself. But you've got to change the situation. And really, this is not about motivational thinking or trying to get you positive. This is reality.
Working with reality.
You've got to deal with it yourself. This is your life, your mind, your body. You're in control. Sometime along the line, you've got to say, stop it. This is enough of all of this going round and around on the carousel. This is where I've got to take control. Reality is reality. It's not going to work out the way that I expect it to, the way that I think it should. People don't act in the way that I think they should act. I don't act in the way that I think I should act. Who am I to judge other people? Who am I to make this hierarchical judgment? You've got to stop this. You've got to come more in reality. Give yourself, as Alex said, that little bit of riddle room, riddle your hips and get some movement in your thinking. So don't be so dogmatic and rigid in your thinking. And this is Wu Wei, the bit in the middle. Find your way, effortless effort, finding your way. I've said this on a couple of videos. I'm going to repeat it. One of my Taoist masters said, talking about the river, you see the river come down the mountain, flowing crystal clear, making its way towards the sea. When it sees a big rock in its path, it doesn't go, oh, well, that's me scuppered. I can't move on now.
Oh, I'm so disappointed.
Oh, dear, who
My
put that rock there?
terrible.
Oh, dear. It finds a way around it. And that's what we have to do. That's the way of this teaching. You have to find, I'm very sorry if things don't work out the way that you think they should have worked out, or people do something different to what they've told you. That's reality. That will happen to you. And then you find a way around it. And then you can think about that person. What that person, is that person that somebody that you do want to have a relationship moving forward? Can they have somebody who walks the walk and talks the talk? Is that the type of person that you want to be in a relationship with? And those are decisions that you make. But think about your expectations and perhaps think about the word intention. I want an intention. This would be my intention of my life. This would be my intention of what I would like. And that gives you that bit of freedom.
And I think every time you have an unexpected outcome or an unwanted outcome, use it as an opportunity to reevaluate and rehone your intention, your goals. If you're working on something for yourself, things don't happen how you want them to. Use that as an opportunity to reflect, as you say, analyze what's happened. Do I need to adjust here? Do I need to change things here? Is this really still what I'm after? Is this still my intention, my goal, my vision? Or
is this something I've just got to get over? Is this something I've got to move on with?
And really, so every outcome, good, bad, or indifferent, is kind of like to use it as a positive stepping stone in one way or the other.
Yeah, and that's why we call it. That's why we call this series of answering your questions life lessons, because they are lessons. And what do you learn from that situation? I wouldn't particularly call them good, bad, or indifferent. I would just say, this is the
It's an
situation.
outcome.
It's an outcome.
Yeah.
Now, what am I going to do with that outcome? How am I going to move around this now? What am I going to learn from this? How did I get here? What are the lessons I have to learn?
Great. Thank you, David. So if anyone can relate to or wants to share about a situation in their life where they've experienced this red light emotion of disappointment, or they've got any insights to share with us, please comment below. As always, we're very happy to hear from you and answer your questions. For those of you who are interested in working one-to-one with David on any of the issues we've talked about, I will put a link below. And finally, of course, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy our videos. We produce videos every week, and the link is up there. So please subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.